This don't make no f***ing sense to me. LOL. I guess our impression of Lenovo has changed. Oh, what the shit? It's for real. WTF. That's just a small sampling of the correspondence between Pocketnow team members yesterday afternoon when the deal known as Moto-Novo, or if you like, Lenovo-Rolla, went down. We'll be talking in depth about that surprising development and a whole bunch of other mobile news, as well as today's interview with Ryan Negri of Negri Electronics on episode 081 of the Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week audio podcast where we discuss mobile technology, smartphones, tablets, wearables, and most things in between. I'm your host, Michael Fisher, editorial director at Pocketnow, and joining me for today's show, for the first time since he donned the editor-in-chief hat, Anton D. Nod. Welcome back, sir.
Good to be back. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. What the f*** is going on?
Well, we're going to find out, because we need to get the honorable snowman of the weekend here, Taylor Martin. Welcome back.
The honorable snowman?
Yeah, you got a lot of weather down there in North Carolina, as I understand. You folks got almost like a half-inch of snow.
Yeah. So the city freaks out. The whole state freaks out. We were in a state of emergency. I'm not even joking.
So
like, you can
ridiculous.
look it up. It's a real thing. We were in a state of emergency.
Taylor, I know there's a lot to talk about on this. I don't think the news had a lot to talk about, but there was plenty of news in mobile, and we have to get to that right away because we have a packed show, and the whole freaking world is upside down because Lenovo just bought Motorola for $2.9 billion. Am I right?
That bucket change.
This is the most ridiculous thing ever. I mean, Tony, you were asleep because Romanian time is
Yeah,
well
I
in
woke
advance
up
of ours.
and all my channels like Twitter, Facebook, Google Plus, emails were like filled with this new Motorola app, Leno roll up, Moto whatever, and I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. And now, Taylor, where were you when you heard the news?
I don't recall. I think I had just finished uploading a video when it broke. And I had just come back from being away, was looking at my computer, and then all of a sudden, no, you were the one who broke it to me because you sent me a message and you were like, I'm writing on this Moto-Novo thing, and I'm like, what the heck is Moto-Novo?
Well, I saw the story.
I Google searched it, and I'm like, it's some kind of like financial support.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah,
Moto-Novo already has a name?
Insurance.
I didn't know that.
Novo.
I just like that a whole lot better than Lenovo-Rolla. Oh, yeah, Moto-Novo Finance. Wow.
Loan
Finance.
advice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, I don't know why he's writing about finance.
Well, what I was doing was I was putting together this Nexus retrospective video that was taking a lot of effort. I was very stressed out. And then SlashGear posted the story. That's the first thing I saw on Twitter was SlashGear reporting on it. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, are you reposting like crappy rumors now? This is totally bogus. And then I saw that the source was Reuters. And I was like, wait, hold up. Is this happening? And I started writing a piece on it, which went up. And in the course of writing that piece, it was confirmed. They're buying them for, what did I say?
$2.91 billion.
Which is about, $9 billion less than Motorola was bought, Google bought Motorola for?
Yeah.
The rest is the patents.
Well, the rest, we've got, but the patents, though, and this is what I want to talk about. So, should we get that out of the way first? Because I think a lot of people are saying, like, that's the automatic response. Like, the patents are worth the difference. And there's a couple other details in there. But I have read at many outlets that the patents are actually not worth all that much. Like, Google tried to bring them to bear in an Apple lawsuit, and it didn't work out for them. Like, the patents are not worth $9 billion, is what I've read. Now, I mean, does anybody know anything more about that, Tony?
No, but it all depends. I'm not sure of how many patents there were in the Motorola package when Google bought Motorola, and I'm sure that Google did not use up all its aces up its sleeve. They had probably relevant patents to bring to court in their defense against Apple or attack towards Apple. But most of the patents, I'm guessing they will be using for future development, innovation, and there will be a topic further down the list. I don't want to jump to it, but it might be in conjunction with the Samsung deal.
Yeah, so right, because that factors into it too. We'll talk about that. Let's just talk about what actually is happening. Motorola Mobility is the division that is going over to Lenovo. Google is actually holding on to fragments of it, most notably the Advanced Design Bureau. I keep wanting to say Advanced Starship Design Bureau, but I don't think they're into that yet.
And Project Aura.
Right, Project Art, which falls under that
it does?
umbrella, I believe, yeah. So the modular concept, which always struck me as one of these, actually, like a couple weeks ago when we reported on this, I was like, yes, this is exactly why Google bought Motorola. This is why they wanted a hardware arm so that they could do this. They could do cool stuff like this, because this screams Google, right? This futuristic modular smartphone concept. So the fact that they are now getting rid of Motorola just confuses me in so many different ways, but the fact that they held on to this Project Ara stuff and the other aspirational futurist stuff does not surprise me at all. So I don't know if we want to talk about what this means for Google, because I'm very confused about that, but what does this mean for Lenovo, do you think, Taylor? I mean, what do you think that they're going to... Obviously, they're going to try and make an American push. Do you think they're going to be successful?
I think if they, keep the Motorola brand intact, maybe. For whatever reason, I don't feel compelled to buy a Lenovo phone. They've kind of...
Well, it's an unproven brand.
It's an unproven brand, and their their tablets are just kind of eh. And to me, their laptops have always kind of just been eh. So I know a lot of people love their ThinkPads and whatnot, but I've never been a huge Lenovo consumer, I suppose, and they've never proven to me as an individual consumer why I should care about their products or buy their products over anything else. And that might be because they don't target the U.S. market so directly or with too much concern. But I don't know. It's tough to say. If they keep everything moving as it is right now, like this well-oiled machine that Motorola is in its current state with its Moto X, Moto G, and the future of its mobile products, I think it could.
So that's a good question. I mean, is Motorola going to be... It's a two-part question. Then the first part is, how much influence did Google ultimately have over Motorola while it was under their umbrella? And two, how much of that can be preserved? I mean, Tony, what do you think?
Just waiting for my microphone lag to go away. So I don't think that there's been an episode of this podcast where we talked about Motorola and I didn't say this. Motorola is close to unknown in Europe.
Yeah.
Opposed to that, Lenovo is everywhere in Europe. Everybody knows Lenovo, laptops, notebooks, and so on. So I think there will be a smart thing to do to keep the Motorola branding for the US market, where Motorola is huge, and maybe go with the same phones or a different lineup in Europe under the Lenovo brand, where the brand recognition already exists and people instantly recognize a product.
That makes a lot of sense, and I think I've seen some speculation in other corners that might be exactly what they do. When Lenovo bought the ThinkPad brand from IBM, they actually kept the IBM brand on there for 2 years. So they bought the ThinkPad line in 05, I think, and they didn't put the Lenovo brand on there until 07. So there was a transition period. Maybe it'll be something similar to that. I would much prefer it, though, Tony, if it went the way you just suggested, if the Motorola brand were kept intact for the States, because obviously, I mean, it's been around since 1928. It's the company that invented the cellular phone.
This is what I would do. I mean, this would be a smart business decision, because coming up with a Lenovo phone or tablet, which, as Taylor said, is a meh product in the US, would just kill the brand. So they want to have the products as fast, as quickly, and as broad as possible in terms of spreading it out to all corners of the world, and that's the only way they can do it. They're
Michael,
already. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you were mid sentence.
So it was. I forgot what I was about to say.
I was gonna say Michael's gonna hate me for this, but it very similarly would mirror how, say, Toyota does the car market. Here in the States, they use the Scion brand to kind of appeal to a younger demographic. And they release the same cars overseas with different names. So here, my car is the FRS, it's the Scion FRS. Overseas, it's the GT or FT86, and then you have the Subaru BRZ. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, they appeal to different markets with different brands. And we haven't really seen that in the smartphone market, because everybody just kind of goes with one brand. And I guess we kind of sort of did back when Samsung was making 15 versions of the same phone for, different carriers and stuff. But I think this would be a really cool chance to broaden Lenovo's reach and even maybe Motorola's, and kind of make them global products where they haven't quite covered the entire globe yet.
And to circle back to your, I'm sorry, Michael, just one sentence. To circle back to your initial question, what did Google do to Motorola between 2011, I think, and 2013, 2014?
Yeah.
I think that they managed to they managed to somehow change the direction of the company, save the company, if you may, and prove that it is possible to come back from the dead. I hope BlackBerry is listening to this. And we have two products, awesome products on the market. So they just proven to everybody that doing things the right way is the right way to do things.
Everything we've heard officially from within the company says that Motorola's day-to-day operations are not affected. Like they're treated as an independent company and whatever. And this is part of the larger conversation about Google being this massive contradiction when they bought them. It's like, okay, we're going to run Android as it's always been run, with manufacturers competing to be able to build devices and competing with each other, but also we're going to have our hardware arm to build our own stuff. Like, competing against yourself in that regard is difficult, and I think that may have been one of the reasons they offloaded Motorola after such a short amount of time. But I'm very curious as to what the people inside Motorola are going to do. Think about these guys. They were with a company with a storied history and a great brand name for many years that diminished, and then it was bought by Google, so now they're Google employees. Okay, now we have a new direction. Less than, 2 years later, now there was an entirely different direction change, and now they're working for a Chinese company.
Well, maybe it's not a direction change. If Dennis Woodside remains the CEO of Motorola, and Lenovo doesn't completely swallow the company, I think they can continue what they're doing. Dennis Woodside, I believe, has a big hand in how Motorola has turned around. I mean, he is Google. Dennis Woodside is born and bred Google. But I think if they can maintain his position and his momentum, I think they can do okay. I will buy their next phone if it's as good as the Moto X. Yeah.
And how long is this going to take? I think we're so impatient in our industry, at least I am, and I know I'm not alone in this. I can't stand it when an acquisition is announced, because it means we're going to have to wait 9 or 10 months for actual new hardware at the earliest. Because we've got to get through the stuff that's already stuck in the pipeline that they had waiting. And regulatory approval, integration stuff, people got to move offices, people got to quit, got to get reappointed. So I understand that long term this is going to be probably a net positive for Lenovo, but in the short term, for someone who just ordered a wooden Moto X that's actually coming today, it may come during this podcast, I didn't expect it to become a collector's item so quickly.
And to give you a counterexample, there's the Nokia-Microsoft deal, and between the moment of announcing the deal and regulatory approvals and everything, Nokia is still ousting devices, ousting tablets, ousting phones, so Motorola might have something down the pipe, and they might release it until they completely change their name or they are completely approved, as in the acquisition.
Yeah, but that's all still legacy stuff, right? Like it's stuff that they cooked up under the old paradigm. We're going to talk in Windows. We're going to talk about the devices that are coming down, but I mean, it's not the new stuff. I don't know. That's not a real complaint. It's just my mind is so scrambled by this crazy thing. But Tony, I get your point. Before we move on, Tony, I'm going to ask for your final thoughts in a second. I just want to ask Taylor one question as a fellow American podcaster. America. As listeners know, I don't often. I'm kind of a globalist dude. I like ideas of the future and forgetting this idea of nation states and so on.
Global economy.
Yeah, but obviously it's not going to really happen in my lifetime. And there are elements of patriotism that exist within me, and one of them, even though it wasn't major, I didn't get crazy about it, but I was proud to carry a phone built by an American company. There is a degree of prestige, and I think a lot of Americans are looking for reasons to be proud of their country these days. Taylor, how do you feel about sort of losing this American gem, as it were, to a Chinese interest?
I'm not much of a prideful kind of person. I'm not sentimental in too many ways, and I've never really felt like I've never been the guy with school spirit or patriotism. Like I it doesn't appeal to me in any way. So having a Motorola product, it didn't really matter to me. I just think it's cool carrying a phone from the company that started so long ago and that kind of created this industry. But as far as where they're from, that really just doesn't mean much to me.
That's a solid answer. Very strange that the guy from Boston is taking my position and the guy from North Carolina rather, is taking Taylor's position. Very interesting. Curious. You can't judge people based on where they live, folks. Remember that. Hey, Tony, final thoughts on this whole thing before we move on?
I am happy because, as I mentioned, I want to see some more Motorola devices in Europe and everywhere where they are not present, because Motorola focused on the US market. So I think this is an opportunity for Motorola. And going beyond that, all that PR talk in the press release that this is going to be a huge deal and Motorola will continue growing and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm just looking at the facts, and I think more markets, more exposure would be both good for Moto and for Novo.
Yeah, I agree. Those are good thoughts. We're going to keep looking into this as time goes on. We'd love to spend more time on this, folks, but we already have a pretty packed schedule. So let's go ahead and move on and talk about something that's related, but at least is not directly Motorola news. Samsung is apparently planning some really intense Android software changes under pressure from Google. There's a question mark after that headline. The source is Recode, and this is kind of been widely reported on in the wake of the Lenovo-Motorola acquisition. Samsung, reportedly, Google was dismayed at Samsung's vision for an Android interface. You guys remember from CES, the magazine UX. And supposedly there was a discussion that saw Samsung either making serious changes to the magazine UX because it doesn't really conform to Google's vision of Android, or taking a step as drastic as dropping it altogether, wrote Stephen Shank. Wow. I mean, that would be huge. Samsung, of course, has been the poster boy for heavy, crazy, UX skins. So what do you guys think is the likelihood of this? I mean, of Samsung, kind of taking this hit, and why would they do it?
So I as much as I love Google and Samsung, both of them, I'll say this: Google is apparently, if this rumor is true, talking against themselves, against everything what Android stands for. Android is about the freedom to customization, to customize, the freedom to do whatever you want with your phone. And once an OEM does that, or with a tablet, now I cannot really see or understand why Google is stepping in. So long story short, I really don't think why Google is so proud of Android as the free, open OS in terms of customization, and when somebody's doing something to differentiate from the rest of the market, they're apparently pissed because they're having success and they are successful while at it. So it doesn't really fit in my mind. I'm sure that Samsung at one point will comply because they are dependent on Google and Google depends on Samsung as the OES for the most successful OEM, but I don't understand the reasons behind this.
See, it's a different thing. I don't know if it's necessarily just the UI things, though, because Samsung has duplicate applications for almost everything Google puts in its phone. So you have two apps that you can't delete on a consumer electronic that do the exact same thing. So you have music apps, you have two browsers, you have
true, but that is alarms. Choice.
Yeah, it is choice. But Google also said probably 2 or 3 years ago that there are guidelines that manufacturers have to follow, and I think this new magazine UX kind of breaks away from that, and I kind of see where I don't understand why Google cares about the UI or the UX, but I do understand why Google is upset with a manufacturer for having its own ecosystem within an ecosystem. So you buy your Samsung apps, you have Samsung Movies and this Samsung Media Hub where you have two digital content stores on one device, and that makes it so confusing.
Yeah. I would agree with you if we would talk about Apple, but we're talking about Google, and the basic, the very foundation of Google and Android is exactly this liberty to do whatever you want with your Android device within, of course, the root and custom other high-tech.
But right, but that's how it started, right? And then what happened was that that was 2009 or 2008, and then over the ensuing years, Google built a content store. They built an app store, they built a bookstore and a movie and TV store. Like, they want you to get stuff from Google Play. So I can see how they would get, like, it would really get under their skin when Samsung is releasing not just a competing store, but a competing store that kind of looks like crap and performs like crap and doesn't have a lot of good stuff in it, and just its mere presence on the menu confuses you by, well, do I go to the Samsung store or do I go to the Google Play Store? You know?
Well,
Yeah,
I totally get it, and that I think that should be up to the consumer, because once I get confused and once I think that thing is crap, I stop using it and I'm uninstalling it or hiding it. I don't think it should be a guideline or something imposed by Google within the lines of what we have talked. I'm not defending Samsung. I'm not a huge Samsung fanboy. I'm just defending the entire freedom of Android thing, and that's the only thing differentiating Android from the other platforms.
Right, and I totally agree, but there's something a little deeper than just that. And it started with Amazon, with the Kindle lineup.
The forking.
Yeah, so
that's
Google says you can use Android and you can do whatever the crap you want to do with it, but if you want to use our services, you have to follow our rules. And that's kind of the thing. Android isn't about just being free. It's about Google earning money through ad revenue, app sales, and things like that. And when a company comes in and destroys the user experience because they're confusing users, Google has to step in and say, hey, this is our part of Android, and you're ruining it. Ruining it. Yeah, but you're ruining it. And if you want to use our services, you have to follow our rules, but you can use the operating system to do whatever you want, but you're going to have to use your own ecosystem.
And I think we can keep pushing on this, right? I mean, I think these are two sides of the debate that kind of never end, right? But my question is to you guys: what do you think the net result of this is going to be? Do you think that we're going to see a Galaxy S5 with an almost bone stock looking Android, or do you think they're going to continue with the heavy skin?
No, I think that the Samsung will continue. They will, if they will dial down the customizations, they will probably have some minor things removed, like, I don't know, the notification shade or everything, but you cannot hold back a custom UI, whether if it's Blink Feed, whether if it's TouchWiz, Magazine UX, you name it. I think that's just way out of line. And Samsung will push to maintain things as close as they are today.
It was interesting to me because I think back when Samsung and Google had a more sour relationship, a lot of people were openly speculating that Samsung was building all of this stuff so that they could ultimately, at some point in the future, say, well, we've got our own content store right now, we've got our own back end, we've got our whole ecosystem that we built, so now we're ditching Android for Tizen. You know,
and I don't think that's completely illogical.
No,
to think that.
I think it was good speculation at the time. I just don't think it's happening anymore now that they've signed this 10-year cross-licensing agreement, and they're obviously much cozier now. Samsung and Google.
Well, yeah, but I think if you look at Tizen now, it looks like a cross between TouchWiz and Magazine UX.
Right.
The most recent version that we've seen and the version that we saw back in October. And I think that this is kind of Samsung's outlet. They're going to start building Tizen phones and marketing them in specific regions that, you know, their Galaxy brands are strong, and then they can run these side by side, and eventually they have a platform to launch after that 10-year agreement's over with.
That's a crazy long-term thing. Go ahead, Tony.
I think that will be one of the biggest mistakes Samsung would ever do. And not necessarily because they are the main OEM for Android phones, but because they have a phone for every price range. Whether we talk US, UK, India, or China, anybody can afford a Samsung phone at any price point. So I'm not saying that they will not come out with 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 Tizen phones. I'm saying that I don't see any reason, or it would be completely foolish or suicidal for them to ditch Android at one point, at any point, and go with Tizen.
Well, you know, at any point, I don't know, Tony. I mean, people were saying that about Windows Mobile back in the day, right? You know,
yeah, but right now the Android wave is the tide is kind of high.
Yeah, it sure is.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's keep talking about this.
85% high.
Let's keep pushing forward on that. And Tony, I would like you to, if you wouldn't mind, to brief us on the latest developments in the Galaxy S5, rumor mill. We were talking about it already, so we might as well talk about.
Yeah, there's been a lot.
Yeah,
we've had some leaks over the past couple of days from EvLeaks, starting with a alleged camera sample which was posted to Flipboard, which looking at the EXIF data, we can learn that is probably either a 16 megapixel shooter, in which case it could be the new ISOCELL camera, or as some others speculated, it is the 16 megapixel version of the 16 by 9 version of the image, in which case if you switch to 4.3, it'll be the 21 megapixel camera, in which case it will not be the ISOCELL camera. So that's the two sides of the coin. And the other leaks, which were, I think...
Let me mention, though, the ISOCELL camera, because I actually didn't catch this story from September 24th, but the big deal with ISOCELL, as Stephen Schenk reports, is hinted at in its name. It offers each pixel in the sensor isolation from its surrounding pixels. And what does that mean? Well, apparently it results in a 30% reduction in crosstalk and a corresponding increase in color accuracy. And there's a wonderful little side-by-side shot of a tulip looking much better with the ISOCELL camera than with the BSI camera. So
it just doesn't look overexposed, though. The color seems to be, that's the big difference.
It looks like somebody cranked down the brightness by no, actually it looks like somebody turned HDR on, basically. But
yeah.
So, yeah, I hope that we get to play with that, because it seems like 3 months can't go by without another camera coming out with a special brand name attached to it. So, anyway, that's the ISOCELL. Hopefully it'll be on there. Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not about the image itself, which is an image where probably somebody pushed their finger against the camera to not reveal their whereabouts. It's about the EXIF data, and that's what it tells us. And the other interesting leaks, I think they were from yesterday, again, coming from EvLeaks, he has leaked screenshots of two APK files allegedly from the Galaxy S5. The first one is the fingerprint service APK, which could indicate that there might be some fingerprint security launcher or any other feature within the S5. But then again, the other side of the coin is that some Galaxy Note 3 devices had this exact fingerprint service APK within their ROMs, though the Note 3 doesn't have a fingerprint service or scanner.
Really?
Yep. And the other file, which was a screenshot, which was leaked, it was a 3D tour viewer, which actually Michael and I had a conversation about, where I thought that it might be a new gallery application, and Michael pointed out that it might be a new way of having 3D or some sort of gestures, improved gestures over the air gestures, which we're having on the S4 and the Note 3. But the interesting bit here is that within the file name, we are seeing the WQHD name, which seems to confirm the 2560 by 1440 resolution, which we're expecting from the S5.
That is a boatload of stuff. But Tony, what you're telling me is no Retina scanner? I'm stunned.
Well, you want to have your iris exposed to a camera?
No, we talked about it on a show like 3 weeks ago, and it's like this doesn't make any sense. That's never going to work.
Unless someone leaks it.
Yeah, they're just now getting to having iris scanners in something about the size of a computer mouse.
Yeah.
We saw this at CES.
That's right.
They said it would be very, very, very difficult to squeeze that down into a phone.
Maybe it'll be
currently.
a special case.
It could be. But speaking of, since you didn't have this in the rundown, and since we're so constrained for time, I'm going to derail the conversation a second. Just a second.
That's great. We have 25 minutes left in the news segment, and you're gonna take us into the weeds. Awesome. All right,
I am because we're talking about camera technology.
Yeah.
And because this hit the news yesterday, Nokia's exclusivity on gyro-stabilized camera technology is now in the open market. This comes from the Register, and I don't know if you saw that, but that means basically, I just dropped it in the chat. Basically, HTC, Samsung, and other manufacturers could use Nokia's stabilization technology.
Yeah, but everyone else is using alternate OIS right now, and it works just as well as it does in the 1020. Why do people need to use Nokia's approach?
I don't know. Maybe
that is an interesting question, and we have no idea whether this technology is the technology from the 920 or from the 1020, in which case there's a huge, huge difference between the two, between the motors and the actual OIS on the 920. So, it's out there, or at least it could be out there for people to grab. The question is, would somebody like LG, who already has a great OIS on the G2, go for that?
Yeah, not to crap all over this. I mean, this is a news story, but it's like the HTC One, the LG G2, the Nexus 5, they all have optical image stabilization. And with the exception of the Nexus 5, I've found them to work pretty well compared to the 1020. So
all I'm saying is
all right.
This could bring OIS to manufacturers who beforehand didn't want to go out of their way to develop their own
their
gyro
own stabilizer.
mechanism.
Or a small fee, probably.
Yeah, it's $1.70 per thousand, right?
Yeah.
Per one. Yeah. So that is interesting. And speaking of optical image stabilization, speaking of the HTC One, speaking of HTC and flagships, HTC is going to miss their KitKat update schedule. That's the last story we have in the Android rundown. Of course, there are tons of rumors on the HTC One's sequel, but for those who own the One right now, it seems that the company is going to miss its self-imposed 90-day deadline. Unfortunately, HTC,
under promise, over deliver.
That's not the other way around.
That and basically any HTC One user who wants KitKat, just convert it to a Google Play Edition version. Just do it. Okay, don't do it. But if you really want KitKat, that's your best way right now.
I
because
think we're
we've seen.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say HTC has a pretty terrible track record with updating, and missing this deadline is a big tell for, I guess, how little they've learned from the past.
Well, it looks like they're waiting on the U.S. carriers for certification. I mean, the HTC has done the work. They've delivered it, but the carriers are the sticking point here as usual. So at least, if we're going to rag on them, we got to tell the whole story. It's not entirely. I mean, yes, should they have been able to get it to the carriers in time for that to happen? Yeah. I'm reminded of like my 10th grade English teacher who's like, if you have a paper due and your printer breaks the morning of, well, you should have printed it earlier. It's like, okay.
True that.
You should just own two printers.
Or just own two printers, yeah. Tony, what were you going to say?
I was about to say that we are probably reading too much into this, or maybe the headline or the entire wave is just blown out of proportion, because it's one thing to miss your deadline by 1 or 2 days, and it's one thing to miss it by a couple of months. And I'm looking at the tweet from HTC USA from January 23rd. Saying that the KitKat software has entered carrier labs for final testing, and we should expect certification next week. Well, we are within next week, and there's still today and tomorrow. And even if it doesn't happen this week, it happens in the first or second week of February. I think that it's preferable for somebody to miss their mark with 1 or 2 weeks against somebody who doesn't deliver in time at all.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Your sentiments are mirrored by the commenters who are being on this story, who are being uncharacteristically generous.
Yeah, what's wrong with them?
I don't know what's wrong with the internet. Well, I mean, Lenovo bought Motorola. Anything's possible.
Yeah, all I'm going to say is you may not have as much experience with U.S. carriers, Tony. U.S. carriers, when it comes to software updates, are notoriously bad for dragging feet. So
I just want to say, yeah, Taylor, you're right. And let's move on to Windows Phone. Windows Phone 8.1 devices are expected from Nokia at MWC, obviously. The MWC is always a big launch.
Where else?
For them, exactly. Tony, tell us what we're going to expect from Barcelona.
So first of all, we have to talk a little bit about Windows Phone 8.1 because we haven't heard anything specific. I think we have heard recently a report that Windows Phone 8.1 as the next major iteration of Windows Phone will be at one point, hopefully at the beginning of April, sent to OEMs.
Yeah.
And then we should see a broad distribution towards the end of April, beginning of May. But that never stopped any OEM, especially if it's Microsoft owned, from showing off some devices 1 or 2 months before that. And here's where the report comes in, saying that Windows Phone 8.1 devices should be on the Barcelona show floor. And the report talks about a phone which we have recently seen leaked, the 1520V or the Lumia 1520 Mini, and then some phones which we have not heard about yet, like the Lumia 1820 or 1525, which are both interesting phones in terms of specs. Just to read a couple from the 1820, for instance, it says it might have a Snapdragon 805 processor, which is the latest one, with a 5.2-inch QHD, which I'm guessing it's the capital QHD, as in 2K. And then there's the 1520V, which I mentioned, which is a 4.45-incher. And then what's left? It's the 1525, which should be probably a natural evolution of the 1520. So if this rumor turns out to be true, then we'll have some next-gen hardware at MWC, hopefully available during the summer.
Yeah, this seems an awful lot like MWC last year when we went to the Nokia thing and a Russian leak told us to expect the 1020 and we were all excited. And then we got the 720 and the 520. Obviously not completely unremarkable devices, but it was much more a low-key announcement than certainly I don't think anything we're going to see here is going to live up to what debuted at Nokia World. These are all just, unless we see some 8.1 features that are really compelling. But I'm trying not to get my hopes up. I think I was burned, and now I'm being conservative on my expectations here. So that's great, though. I'm glad we'll have more Windows Phone stuff to talk about. Our offices have been a flood of Android devices recently, at least on my delivery recipient pad.
Yeah.
And so it'll be nice to talk about Windows Phone again.
Your table reflects the current state of the market.
That's exactly right. That's true. We've been doing a lot of after the buzzes too, though, so I was able to get a little Windows Phone in there. Let's move on to wearables before we hop into listener mail. Still don't have an intro sound for wearables. Somebody suggested a donkey groan. I don't think that's... Yeah. I like the Pebble rattling the wristband thing. By the way, my Pebble is being repaired, or it's about to go. That's a nice sound. Taylor, record that and send it to me. I like that. My Pebble is under repair. Tony, did you order the Pebble Steel?
Yes, I was about to say breaking news. I did place my order with the Pebble Steel. The amount was blocked on my credit card, and then it was released, and my order got canceled.
Oh, no.
Awesome.
What happened?
So it looks, I have no idea. I'm debating whether to place another order or not, but it looks like me and Pebble or me and smartwatches, not for now.
Oh, you know what, Tony? I tell you what, try the order again. Just have it shipped to me. I'm sure it'll work better this time, and I'll hold on to it for you.
Yeah, at least until, I don't know, Berlin.
Yeah, at least until August. So I was about to order a Pebble Steel for myself, and then I realized the money I was going to use to do it was all on gift cards because I spent my real money getting an Ebony Moto X. And I can't use gift cards to buy it because it's not in Best Buy. It's only for special order, and we don't know if it's ever going to make it to Best Buy. It would have been an interesting question to ask.
You can't use that Outback gift card.
I can't use my Chili's gift card to get a Pebble Steel now. So let's talk about the Pebble App Store, though, because it's not just new hardware that we're talking about. We're talking about new software. Taylor, you gave us a walkthrough of the Pebble App Store. Very briefly, tell us your impressions. I think you said to me in an IM, it's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it is. It's nothing revolutionary because it's not the first app store we've ever seen, but it is the first, I guess, app store for a wearable that we've seen, and it's very much needed. After using it and then switching back to running my Pebble on Android, I miss it. And it's because it's so easy to manage all the apps and find new stuff. But right now, like if you're using a Pebble with an Android device, you have to search high and low across the internet to find cool and new things. And you can find it at websites like mypebblefaces.com and stuff like that. But that website is very, very slow because I think it's getting way too much traffic. And it's not as nice because you have to either search it on your phone or search it on your computer and then download it and then install it. From the Pebble App Store, you can just find something, search it, install, and you can either add it to your Pebble, or if your Pebble's full, which you have 8 slots, if your Pebble's full, you can add it to your locker.
I only have a question. I'm not sure Taylor can answer this. Is there any difference in functionality between this Pebble App Store used with the first-gen Pebble, which you guys have, and the same Pebble App Store used with the Pebble Steel?
My only guess is that you would have maybe 16 apps, I think it is on Steel. I can't remember if they said that. I know you have double the storage, but I don't know if that's unlocked in the software yet. So that'd be the only difference, I imagine, because Eric Midjakovsky, the CEO, told us at CES that they designed Pebble Steel to be exactly the same experience as the original Pebble, just looks nicer and has the LED. So that's my only guess, really, honestly. But so far, it's nice. The software that I used is not official software. It's official, but it's not final production. It's not ready. It's beta. And that's notable because some of the apps that you click on to install don't work. Like you click it and click add or install, and it just kind of sits there.
Yeah,
it blinks and nothing happens. Yeah, so yeah. There are some bugs to work out, but right now it's only available on iOS as a preview. Android and the official one should be out soon. That's really all. They didn't give us a date.
All right. This is Out of Sequence in the Rundown. Let's talk about the next competitor to the Pebble from Samsung, which has already released the Galaxy Gear. We might be seeing a Galaxy Gear 2 with a bendable screen. This is kind of the rumor du jour. It's always the bendable screen. The Galaxy Gear was supposed to have one. The iWatch is supposed to have one. I would love to see it. But the meat of this news story, which comes to us from ZDNet, is that the Galaxy Gear 2 might launch in March or April at a London event hosted by Samsung. The smartwatch is reported to fix many of the issues of the initial Gear that wasn't received as well as Samsung thought on the market. And the flexible OLED display is rumored as well. What do you guys think? I mean, we now have a world in which we have at least two smartphones from major manufacturers that have curved displays. It doesn't seem completely out of the ordinary to think of one on a smartwatch. Obviously, we've all said it before. I mean, do you think it's possible, though, that we'll see one this soon?
It is definitely possible. It all depends on the level of curvature, because once you have something on your wrist, you have to have it more curved than, for instance, the LG G Flex or the Galaxy Round. But it's definitely doable. But one thing I would like to add is that we've heard from a lot of Samsung executives that the Gear 2 would launch with the S5. So if this rumor is true, then we might see the S5 at a special London event in March or April.
Wow, the Gear 2 launching with the S5 would be cool, because the initial Gear launched with the Note 3.
Yep.
And I always thought that was a great pairing, because the Note 3 is a big device you don't always want to take out of your pocket, so you want a smartwatch with it. I get that. But launching with the S5 would give it even more star power. You know, I mean, people... The Galaxy S launch events for the flagship are attended by the widest swath of media ever. You know, the Note, for all its popularity, is still not as popular as the S line, so... that would be something. I mean, everyone would be talking about the Gear 2 if they did it this way. And I think they would stay talking about it if they reduced the price by $100, you know? But if there's going to be a curved screen on that sucker.
And remove the wart.
Yes, remove the wart. And stop comparing the Galaxy Gear to unripe fruit.
Yeah.
Which I didn't see that before. I didn't see that Samsung had compared it to a small tomato.
Small green tomato.
Yeah, don't release a product and then kind of bash it. You know, like, that's just, I'm sure their PR company was like,
please
pulling their hair out when they read that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, Taylor,
this kind of goes in line with what I was with an article I wrote earlier this week about wearables maybe potentially eventually replacing smartphones, and it's a theoretical that would maybe take place, you know, years down the road, decades down the road. But something like this could change that landscape, because the problem is the size of the display and the interaction with it. Mm-hmm. With having a flexible display that looks, at least from this concept render that we've seen a million times, if it were to have a display kind of like that, then you would see maybe a little more usefulness out of a device. Mm-hmm.
The thing is, I like that idea, and I like talking about. I really like the idea of smartphones replacing dumb phones, replacing smartwatches replacing dumb phones. But we have to move on, and I don't want to do it, but we have to, because we can't skip listener mail again. I want to close it out with this ridiculous thing that looks like crap in all the concepts I've seen. Every competitor to Google Glass that I have seen personally, maybe there are two of them, which I saw at CES, and God, it looks like somebody took a pair of surfing sunglasses and like smacked a webcam on there and then ran a wire from it to your temple. Like, it just oh God, they're ugly. Do we know this is rumored for an IFA debut at this point, Samsung's answer to Google Glass, which they will no doubt call Galaxy Glasses, and then we'll have a wonderful time suing each other again. But, or actually maybe not, but they'll just smack talk each other probably. So what do we think this is going to look like, guys? I mean, do you expect that this is real? This is from the Korea Times, so it has some degree of legitimacy, ostensibly.
I don't want to comment on this.
I have no idea. Like, it just doesn't look comfortable, or it looks like somebody took Google Glass and tried to make it look even worse. And that just, I don't know.
Not that Google Glass looks good to begin with.
Right.
Google Glass doesn't look bad, though, at least. I mean,
it doesn't in, I guess, pictures. It looks less bad in pictures, but when you see it in person, you're just kind of like, I wanted one, and I still kind of do, but I would feel really weird wearing it around. I don't know, but this, like, I just don't understand the concept of this, like how those earbuds are going to fit in your ears while that strap is still going over your ears. Like, I don't understand.
Describing it sounds like you're like trying to strap on a piece of scuba gear. Like, it doesn't sound comfortable or look fun.
Yeah,
right?
but like the difference between where those earbuds sit and the top of your ear is they're almost in line with one another.
For whatever reason, I'm closing my eyes. I'm seeing the scene from Total Recall with Schwarzenegger when he's pulling out that thing from his nose.
Oh God. Oh yeah.
I've only seen the new one, so
Well, that's all right.
That's your baby.
Let's use that as our cue to move on. I think because we have to get to listener mail, and we've got some good ones in here. So shall we do that?
Yeah, please.
All right.
yeah. I was going to say that I have a really cool sound that you could use for your wearables transition.
Oh well, we already did the wearables trends. Now we have to do the listener mail one. That's not as good as the little rattlesnake.
The rattlesnake.
Yeah. The Galaxy Gear makes notification sounds. I don't know why I don't just use one of those. Maybe I just use one of those. But right now, we're going to the WebOS Bong Bong because it's time for listener mail. Bong bong. Hey, Pocketnow team, says Casey Dudek from Hillsboro, Oregon. I love the show and never miss a week. You guys are very professional. Are we? But a lot of fun, and I enjoy your Twitter feeds as well. Thank you, Casey. OEMs are always looking for a new feature for their products to give them an edge and sell some more products. The Lumia 1020 with its camera, the Flex with its curved display, and nearly everyone is improving their displays with each model. So, I'm wondering, is it possible to build a high-end microphone phone? And is there a market for it? Might be good for business people. People do a lot of public speaking. Maybe it could come pre-installed and bundled with special podcasting software. Anyway, I think this is an interesting idea, and I thought it would be fun to hear you guys kick it around. Take care. You guys are the best, Casey. Casey, thank you for the email. This is a cool thing. But it's not... We've seen this before, haven't we, guys? We've seen phones with, like, HD microphones, right?
Right.
Specifically, the HTC One with its crazy HD voice service utilizing hardware from Nokia, and then they got sued for it. And now they can't use that fancy stuff anymore.
It's interesting because some of you already know that I changed mics recently, and this is actually one of the reasons I changed mics, is because I want to be able to record a podcast or anything from even an iPad, and the mic I have now just plugs straight into an iPad, so I can do that. Mm-hmm. But the other condenser mic I have requires power, so you have to use a powered USB hub, and it's just a pain. So
this would serve you well.
It would serve me very well.
A really high-end microphone that was integrated. But, I mean, when I think about this, though, Taylor, I mean, like, I'm looking... You guys, all three of us, I think, have experience with the Blue Yeti. I'm talking into one right now, and the thing is the size of a very large burrito.
It's a foot tall.
What, Tony?
It's a foot tall.
Yeah, it's massive, and it's standing in a big old steel frame, and it's great. But that's what you need for good sound. I'm not saying the Blue Yeti is the best microphone I've ever used, but it's a wonderful compromise. And even so, it's huge. So trying to cram all that into the size of something that needs to fit into a smartphone would be more difficult than trying to squeeze a retinal scanner in there. More difficult to trying to squeeze a DSLR lens in there. It's just one of those things, Casey, that I think is not possible right now with our current technology. And it's easier for someone just to buy a peripheral and plug it in. Go ahead, Tony.
And to answer your question, I'm not sure there would be a market for that.
Yeah, that's true
yeah,
too.
it would be very limited.
Yeah.
But to that same degree, I'm speaking right now into a mic that is probably 20% of the size of the Yeti.
Huh.
So it's a condenser mic, and it fits in the palm of my hand. It's about the size of, I don't know, it's smaller than a can of soda.
So perhaps in the future, condenser mics will be condensed into ever smaller footprints. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, the difference, I think, between mine and yours is the Yeti has it's a triple condenser, and this one's single.
Plus the filters, plus the inputs, plus the amplification,
yeah.
plus.
All right. Thank you very much. That's an awesome question, Casey. I appreciate it. And hopefully we see more HD voice stuff in the future. But for the business calling part, we have to make the point that carriers need to adopt it first, and carriers are still in the midst of rolling out the back-end support for HD voice, quote, unquote. So,
still, since I remember sitting in that...
the booth?
No. The Sprint press event, who knows how long ago in New York.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, it was the... that was the one we were both at, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, where they're like HD voice, and they switched to this recording of something that was obviously not a phone call. But that was 2011, I think.
Yeah, we've been hearing about this for just years and years and years, and obviously phone calls need to be upgraded, but it's going to take a while for that to happen. And in the meantime, we'll all just keep using Skype or Facebook chat over a data connection, and does the same thing. Hey, let's talk about the second email. Who would like to read that one? Somebody volunteer.
I volunteer Tony.
Oh, the bait and switch.
I'll read it.
Go ahead.
Hello, Pocketnow. I'll go straight into the question. Following on from the news of a possible discontinuation of the Nexus line in favor of Google Play Edition devices, it raised a couple of questions with me. One, how would availability work? I would assume there would be a period of time between an OEM device shipping and a Google Play Edition version of the device shipping, but would OEM be saying Google Play Edition will be available in months or soon or whatever? Or would it be down to the consumer waiting it out and hoping a Google Play Edition on a device you want becomes available?
So let's tackle these piece by piece.
Yeah, right? that's more than one question.
Yeah. I think that's what do you think? I mean, I think the Google Play Edition, if the Nexus brand were retired, as some people are speculating, I think the Google Play Edition procedures would remain kind of unaffected. I mean, what is it now? A device is released by the OEM, and then a couple weeks later, if there is going to be a GPE version, Google comes out and says, hey, this is in the store now, go get it. I don't think that model is broken. I don't think that anybody's complaining about that, right?
I don't know. But you were speaking Nexus, and I really quickly wanted to touch on this. This is what I was thinking while I was reading the question. There's a rumor now that Lenovo will be making the Nexus 6 because of the Motorola purchase. So
Yeah.
So I don't know how much I believe these Nexus discontinuation rumors, but I do think that Google is trying to build out the Google Play Edition brand, and we've seen more and more manufacturers kind of bring those GPE devices out more quickly, specifically with the Xperia Z or the Z Ultra, and the G Pad. So I don't know. The question here is a little convoluted, but I think what you're asking is how quickly are the turnarounds going to be? Are manufacturers going to be up front and say, hey, we're releasing this device and we're releasing a Google Play Edition? I don't think it's ever going to be that. It's always been kind of, we were talking about this on the Weekly last week, where Google has kind of moved away from press releases and press events, and they're just like, oh yeah, we released that last week, but here it is.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that's ever going to be a thing where they come out front and release these things. It's not meant to be a big consumer push. It's just kind of
I agree.
There. Yeah.
I think that the answer to this is tied to the following thing. Having a Google Play Edition phone is not an obligation, is an option for the OEM itself, as I see things right now and as I see them in the near future. So it's up to Samsung or HTC or Sony whether they want to ramp up their sales and also address that side of the market which are into a pure Android experience. Now, if I'm Samsung, HTC, or Sony, or any other OEM who wants to have a Google Play Edition phone, I would say that phone should be available at the same time as the non-Google Play Edition phone, because we want, of course, to tailor to all segments of the market.
Let's hit up the second part of the question here. That should OEMs, what is it? How is it, Taylor?
Basically, he's asking, should HTC and Samsung and all these OEMs release specific apps or standalone apps for the different services for all the hardware that their devices use? So when the HTC One Google Play Edition came out, we knew that one, infrared wouldn't work. We knew that the ultra-pixel camera would not be utilized to its fullest potential. We knew that there were several different things in the hardware that stock Android software did not cater to.
Right. So, but actually, I want to speak to that because the camera actually performed identically, I think, because I had both of them, and so like some of those driver level things were actually modified for the GPE so that they would be corrected.
Right, and they updated with infrared support as well.
Exactly. Right. So those are not the greatest examples, but I get the question, and I think it's something that we're going to see more of because, guys, what did we see at CES? We saw ZTE say outright that we have this awesome camera app, and you're going to be able to download it in the Google Play Store no matter what phone you carry. That is what they said, right?
Yep.
Something like that. I don't know that it'll have all the features. I think he said it's missing some of the features, but yes.
Sure.
Which are hardware dependent.
Exactly, right. But anything that's just based on the software, you'll be able to download. So, I mean, we haven't seen that yet, or at least we haven't gotten a press release announcing that yet. So I guess that's one of those things where I have to see it before I believe it. But I would very much like to download a ZTE viewfinder on my phone. So
Heck yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Can I just a small sentence? I think that it should be done, but I think that it will not be done because we will have on one end the standard global TouchWiz or Sense powered phone. And on the other hand, we will have the pure Android. Releasing these applications as standalones would allow pure Android users to have certain applications, in which case, if I'm HTC or Samsung, I can say, you know what, if you want this, why don't you buy the other phone?
Yeah, but in the same vein, this is something we've seen Google do in order to update its services and application or devices more quickly.
Yeah.
So a lot, or if not all, the Google services are outside Android now. And they're not.
Yeah, but they have an advantage. All of those applications are shipping stock on phones.
Gents, right. I would love to continue this conversation, but the good news is our guest has just come online, so we have to be wrapped up with the listener mail segment in 9 minutes. And we have 2 more pieces of mail. That was from Ben Chung, though. Shall we thank Ben from Cardiff in the UK for sending us that message that we could talk about for another 25 minutes?
Absolutely, yes.
Those are good questions, Ben. Thank you. So the next one is from Justin from Arizona, who's wondering what the big deal is with OIS, optical image stabilization. So this is coming from someone who's never had it on a smartphone, he says. Is it one of those things that once you've had it, you can't go back? Also, is it one of those things that could be a picking point between 2 phones if everything else is the same that you care about? So any help would be greatly appreciated. Thanks again and great job, Justin from Arizona. Yeah, OIS is I'll just answer first and you guys can go. OIS is basically a requirement for me. The exception that I made for the Moto X is because I like the other features of it so much, but I really, really, really like OIS on a camera. It is one of those things that once you've tested it, it's really hard to use a phone without it because the low light performance is generally so much better, and also your video isn't jumping and jostling around as you're walking down the sidewalk. Guys,
unless you have a defective 1020.
Yeah. Well, you guys have both carried the 1020. Do you agree, disagree, what?
I agree, definitely.
Yeah. It is, and it's hard for me to carry a Moto X or an iPhone 5 and not have OIS. Like, it's something that I think every single phone on the market should have. Absolutely, hands down. If you want a better camera experience in your phone, OIS is the way to go.
And then it all depends on how you're shooting your pictures. If you're mostly shooting landscapes or shooting outside in optimum conditions, then you shouldn't care that much about optical image stabilization. But if you're more the kind of guy who shoots indoors, at parties, at clubs, fireworks, and so on, that's something you cannot live without.
Yeah, and if you're riding on like a boat or a train that jostles you around a lot and for some reason you take photos, like OIS is a huge help. So. Absolutely.
And Samsung's software stabilization does not compare even remotely.
No. Well, nobody's software stabilization compares. Right. Yeah.
But I'm thinking, Samsung is one of the very few Android manufacturers who hasn't picked it up.
Yeah. Well, and we'll
tries
probably
to
see that changed.
So, I hope so.
Thank you for that, Justin. And finally, our last piece of mail comes from VJ. Hey, guys, great work as always. The reason I enjoy you guys is your diversity. You have Android guys, Apple folk, Windows, and Michael, who likes anything colorful and shiny. Yes, that's true, VJ. My mother-in-law is stuck in the late 90s, early aughts. To give you an idea of how she's stuck in the 90s, she's the last person I know who still writes checks at the grocery store. She uses email and had a feature phone. I bought and gave her a Lumia 520 for Christmas. Good for you, VJ. She told me I can check my email and go on Facebook on my desktop. I can call and text people on my phone. I have an iPod and I have a decent point-and-shoot camera. Why do I need this, the 520? What could I tell her to help her understand that this one device could make things easier? Or did I waste my money because she was getting along fine with how things were? Thanks as always, VJ. I love questions like these.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say you did not waste your money because the 520 is a great bargain. Like you can't go wrong with that phone, even just to have it as a backup. So you didn't waste your money. Console yourself in that, at least. But to tell her she can do all of that stuff on the go and not have to carry 15 devices with her just to do one thing, then yeah, that's the justification, but not everyone sees it. My ex is a perfect example. She carries a dumb phone right now, and she checks her email on her original iPod Touch, which takes about 5 or 6 minutes to pull new emails.
Yeah.
So not everyone's going to see it.
Tony, what do you think?
My parents are both having smartphones, and you know what's the only single thing which they are doing with their smartphones? Calling me.
Yeah.
Calling me, and that's really, I think, a gap between us who are 80s guys, Taylor who's late 80s or early 90s, and the other
90s,
folks
baby.
who are, I'm sorry, and the other folks who are, I know, 50s, 60s. It's a gap. This technology thing is kind of difficult for them to absorb, to accept, and to utilize.
Yeah, you have to understand that unlike us, they weren't born with a phone in their hands.
Right.
So.
And I've seen it from both sides. My parents were both scoffed the idea of getting smartphones, and then I got them smartphones, and they eventually came around. And when they did, it was a really cool thing, and it was something that surprised me. And so it's not impossible. That said, I've also run into some really, really, really stubborn old folks and, stubborn young folks too, who they're just never going to come around. So, VJ, I think it falls to you to decide what kind of person your mother-in-law is. But certainly the 520, just like any other Windows phone, has a massive suite of things. So if you can find some kind of nexus between what your mother-in-law is interested in and what the 520 can do, whether that's pictures of horses playing sound files of, I don't know, birds singing or, something random, but something that a smartphone can do that she didn't know it could do, that might be the drug that gets her hooked. Otherwise, hey, you didn't spend that much money, so I don't feel too bad.
I posted a picture of my dad getting his first smartphone to the Pocketnow Instagram account.
Yes,
and the
that was an
entire
awesome
time,
photo.
the entire time he had his face in the palm of his hand, and he was shaking his head, and he was just angry. His face was red, and my stepmom, she was saying, "Take him for a walk, go just babysit him somewhere else, go get food or something." So we did. We came back. He sat down, put his face in his hand again, and the guy finally finished up, handed my dad his Galaxy S3. And my dad went outside and started taking pictures, started calling. He was calling his wife, who was 2 feet in front of him, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." Started doing all kinds of stuff. And he I went over to his house a few months ago, and he pulled out his computer and was showing me a bunch of pictures he took at all these concerts and stuff.
It's awesome
and,
to see that when that happens.
Yeah. And the best thing ever that I've ever seen my dad do or say, he was like, "Look at what I figured out I could do." And he showed me like 20 pictures of selfies that he took. It was so great. He was so excited.
Selfies.
He's like, "It has a picture or a camera on the front." I'm like, "Yes, it does, Dad." It's just so funny.
So, VJ, I hope that you find some of that joy as well. It's not guaranteed, but I hope you as similar a success.
Show her she can take selfies.
Show her she can take selfies. No, she can't. Not with the 520. She can't.
Oh yeah.
Taylor, you've got to go. You're not going to be around for the feature, so say goodbye to everyone if you don't mind.
Bye.
Bye.
Wonderful. Very efficiently done.
Taco.
Taylor, we'll see you next week. Yeah.
Yeah. See ya.
All right, we're going to hop into the feature then. Well, folks, if you've been tuned into the mobile tech scene, and especially if you've followed Pocketnow over the past few years, the business he started is probably a household name. That's a name he shares with the business, and we've got him here to talk with us about both. From Las Vegas, the founder and former CEO of Negri Electronics, Ryan Negri. Welcome to the Weekly.
Thank you, guys. Happy to be here.
Very, very happy to have you. Thank you for carving out some time in your schedule to come join us on our podcast. Listeners, if you're not familiar with Negri Electronics, you should be.
You're living in a cave.
Yeah.
You're living in a cave?
Pocketnow has had a relationship with Negri for, how long, guys? What's it been, 3 years?
Even more.
4 years.
Okay. Yeah. And it's that has meant that we've been able to get our hands on a lot of review devices when the manufacturers or carriers haven't been able to get them to us as promptly as we'd like. So it's been very beneficial for everyone. And Tony and Brian have had a long working relationship, but we all correct me if I'm wrong, we all met in person for the first time at this past CES, right?
Correct.
Yes, that is correct. And
That was an adventure.
Taylor as well.
And Taylor as well, that's right. So I was walking with Taylor. Actually, we were trying to find Tony when we met you, because Tony was like, I will be right outside this booth. And then we came outside the booth, and Tony, you were not there.
Because I was looking for Ryan.
Yeah. So
In a completely other hall.
Yeah, in a completely different part of the complex. So Taylor and I were just walking around like, I don't know where Tony is. We got to find Tony. And that's when we ran into Ryan. But then you guys had a wonderful dinner, and I was too sick to join you, and that is the regret of my CES. And a long list of regrets. That's my number one regret, was not being able to join you. So it was wonderful to meet in person, and I hope we get to do it again. And I'm really glad we get to know you a little bit better today, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on, and anytime you guys are in Las Vegas, I will definitely meet you anywhere you'd want to meet.
Thank you. And I actually, Tony, I think you swore off the United States after your vacation.
Ever. It's like my butt when I came back or when I arrived was kind of squared because of all the sitting I've been doing for 30 hours, which took me from my hometown to Vegas, and not to mention that CES/Vegas plague that pinned me to bed for like 2 weeks.
Dear God, yeah. Well, it's fortunate that you got it later than I did, because then you got to go out to dinner and enjoy your CES time a bit more than I did.
Yeah,
But
and I had my taste buds deflowered because of that filet mignon.
your taste buds were deflowered. That's the quote of the show. Thank you. I want to get started by getting to know Ryan a little bit. Can you just tell, from a holistic point of view, like what are you about, Ryan Negri? What are you into? What are your interests? What do you like to do? Do you hunt, ride horses, ride motorcycles? What?
Well, I'm your typical serial entrepreneur. I'm always trying to better things, improve things, even things that aren't mine. Some people have a problem hearing improvements that they should make on their things, but that's what I do, and that's what I love. I love helping people, and that's one of the reasons I started Negri Electronics, is to help people find the devices that they wanted, because that was me. That was me back in the day, looking for a device that was only overseas, and I knew that other people wanted it. So I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I started several companies. The first one that I started is actually Negri Investments, which was back in college. I bought a house out there when I was 18. It was a 5-bedroom house. I rented it out throughout my college career. I didn't pay a dime for college, didn't pay a dime for room and board or food. And then after I left, 2 years after I left, I sold it for like an 80% markup. which was great. It was right before the housing crash, basically. So I got quite lucky there.
Wow. Absurdly lucky. Yeah. Where was college?
St. Cloud State, Minnesota.
Ooh, colder than Las Vegas.
It was much colder than Las Vegas. It wasn't too far from Wisconsin, which was good. I was still able to head home when I needed to, and a couple of my friends actually went to school out there, so I joined them. And the original intention was to actually play golf out there. I had a scholarship offered to me, and when I got out there, the coach was let go prior to the season starting, so that the scholarship was no longer offered. But I did still play. I played for 2 years. It just wasn't a fun experience. It was more, each practice was more competitive than the tournaments. Each practice you'd go out and the best 5 scorers would be in the next tournament. So you have 10 people and they're just competing, hard-nosed golf. Nobody's talking to each other on the course, and that's not the way I was brought up, and that's not the way I like to enjoy golf.
That's not a lot of fun at all. It's supposed to be a social experience.
Right, and you got 4 hours of practice every single day because you play 18 holes every day, and you just don't have. It just wasn't fun.
What happened when I went on a golf course for the first and only time? I had about 6 or 7 attempts at hitting the ball every single time, and for some reason I couldn't even hit the golf ball. So I am envious of anyone who can hit it, and more importantly, hit it into the hole. So good for you for finding the time to do it more often recently. We should actually make that bit clear, right? The reason you have time to play golf a bit more often now is that you. What happened with Negri? You decided that you wanted to have some more time to yourself, and did you sell the company? What happened?
Let me jump in for a second. It was literally New Year's Eve in Romania. I was at the table. It was December 31st, around 9 or 10 p.m. So we were or it was Christmas, somewhere around that. It was one of the holidays. And I'm getting an email from Ryan, and he's like, "Hey guys, I've sold the company. Here's a press release in case you want to cover it." And I'm like, "What?" and then Ryan, sorry, back to you.
Did your hat blow off your head?
Almost.
Well, the original plan was to take on an investor and kind of bring in some money so that we could grow. For the last 7 years, we've been growing organically, and we just recycle money and grow. And over time, we grew, 60, 70% over the years. And that's each year. I mean, we actually made the Inc. 5,000 list for top companies or top growth companies, in the private sector, and I think that kind of made some awareness to some investors. And we were actually working with one of my friends that actually owns a carrier, and he introduced us to a financial advisor or
any
banker.
Carrier we know?
Yeah, is it an MVNO or?
It is. It's Red Pocket Mobile.
Cool. Where do they operate?
Exactly.
Presumably in the Western U.S.
He's out of California, but yeah,
okay.
They're all over the U.S. obviously, and but their main location is California, and that's where I met him, and we became great friends. And he introduced me to a broker, business banker that found us someone that was interested in investing. And after they took a look at the company and our business plan and the growth that we had and our projections, they made an offer to buy the entire thing.
Which was a surprise to you, I imagine.
It was, yeah, because, I mean, initially, like I said, we were going to take on some money, and it wasn't going to be a lot of money. It was going to be enough to kind of get the growth that we wanted to see. And with the offer that they came back with, there's no way I could have said no.
Understood. Well, congratulations on that. You're still involved with the company. You're a consultant, right?
Yep, I'm on the board. I'm a consultant. I'm actually involved in sales as well. They gave me a sales contract for the 2014 year, and it's renewable every single year if I wanted to. I'm not exactly sure how long I'm going to stay on, but I did want to be here for the transition. I want to make it easy for them. Instead of calling me and trying to get a hold of something, they can walk right into my office here and ask any questions they need. Or
absolutely,
and it's good for the staff too. I mean, anytime someone takes over a company and the founder, the owner just disappears, it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Yeah, so
and plus the company bears your name, right? I mean, like it's Negri Electronics. It's literally your name in the company, so you want it to do well.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and I definitely want to help them as much as possible. The buyers are actually used to working into companies that aren't doing well, and one of the things that he wanted to do is he wanted something of his own. So they put up the money, and now this is his, and I'm just helping them along the way.
I like this because this is, and Tony, by the way, I want you to feel free to jump in at any point, but
I will. Believe me, I will.
I like this conversation because normally we cover the tech news on this show, and it's rare that we get to talk to somebody who's actually kind of started something from nothing that's turned into a business. I think a lot of our listeners are, if not necessarily entrepreneurs themselves, then at least interested in that world. So it's nice to get a little bit of a flavor of what can happen if you.
And I actually have a question concerning that.
Yeah, please.
So I was thinking about this. Say you are a young man like me or Michael 1,000 years ago, and you would like to jump into this business and start your own gig. Ryan, what are the, let's say, 3 most important things you have to have in order to start with? Being young, ambitious, smart, driven, and an entrepreneur.
Are we talking any business or in electronics or
specifically business like yours?
Yeah, let's get into that because we have it on the rundown as the experience of getting the site off the ground. I think that dovetails nicely with this.
Yeah, well, you got to have the drive, and without that, you're really going to reach a place or a part in the building process where you hit a roadblock, and without the drive to kind of push through that roadblock, you're going to quit. A lot of times people think that, I could put in 40 hours here and get this thing off the ground. That's not true. You need 60 hours a week if you're if you're smart. If you're not, you're going to have to put in more time. And most of the time, people, give up or they don't want to do that, so they go and find a job working, 9 to 5, getting a steady paycheck, and they never really reach their entrepreneurial dreams that they've had when they were younger, just because they didn't have the drive. But it's not that hard to kind of find that drive within yourself. But you have to do it with something you love. You have to find something that drives you, that you're passionate about. That when something goes wrong, you're still able to kind of be in love with it and push through.
And for you, Ryan, that's continues to be technology. Is that right?
Tech's always been something that I love, and I still love it, even though I'm not completely involved here. But finding better ways to do things, being more efficient. That's always been my kind of. I guess the goal is to make things better. And, one of my other companies that I have, Lycos, we've built the app called Fuse, which basically merges all of your social feeds into one. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to switch between the apps.
So it's like Flipboard for a social feed, right?
Right, and it's all one aggregated feed where you can see Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. You don't have to switch between the apps. I mean, if you add up the time that it takes to switch between the apps every time you turn on your phone, you're losing some time. So to be able to use one app, and we have a lot of plans for this. To modify your profile from one location, it'll push all your pictures, all your profile pictures, and update all to your social feeds. So there's many ways to kind of take this app to the next level, and that's what we're planning on doing.
I love hearing about this because it just reinforces your serial entrepreneur claim. Like, I have met a number of guys who apply the same label to themselves, and actually, Brandon is one of them. Where tell me if I'm inaccurate here, but it's the real joy comes from starting something new and seeing it succeed, right? And you don't want to stop doing that. Like, once something is up and running, you're like, okay, this is awesome, and now I'm going to move on to this next thing. I mean, is that
the problem
right?
with moving on? Yeah, the divorce.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there are problems with. I mean, right now, that's what I'm dealing with right now, because it's, Negri Electronics was my baby, and now someone else has my baby. Yeah. But, as long as I see it become successful and I know the plans, I'm okay with that, because the guys that are taking over maybe have more resources than I ever could have had, and maybe it's for the better that they're taking they're taking it forward.
Yeah, can we talk about, Tony, I think you wanted to ask about the competition specifically in terms of that. Like, obviously going forward, the strategy can change, but what's it been like, to deal with competition in your space?
It's actually been pretty great. When I first started, I didn't like competition. People were having lower prices, and I was being asked to match everything, and I was getting aggravated because we put so much more into what we do here at Negri Electronics than other people, I think. And when you're being asked to match prices, we just come back with, "Do you want us to match the service too?" So it's kind of a give take. If you want a better price, fine, we'll just throw it in a box and ship it to you. Or do you want us to take care of it like we normally do? Do you want us to quality check everything? Do you want us to make sure it's actually unlocked, brand new, and sealed when you get it? So competition was nice because you get people. Let's say, for example, Expansis. They used to be good at what they do. They kind of lost their drive. They're siphoning money into the U.S. operation, and it wasn't doing well. It's still not doing well, from what I've heard. But that kind of made it easier and better for us. So the competition kind of drove people to us. Because people weren't happy with the way things are going over there. And, if you order something from another site and it doesn't ship for 3 to 5 days and you're upset.
Yeah.
Right. So, we updated our site so you'll be able to see when the product is supposed to ship. And if it doesn't, we'll tell you exactly where it is, what happened, and we'll likely refund your shipping. No one else really does that. You don't care. People don't care as much as our staff or my staff or their staff, I guess it would be now.
Right. As we talk about companies like Negri, I'm suddenly remembering my first order from a... Ryan, obviously your site is a store, but what do you call it? I mean, is it a wireless wholesaler? Is it a mobile? Because I'm trying to think. I'm thinking of one of your competitors, and I don't know what to call it.
What's wrong with the e-tailer tag? I said.
Sure. Oh, e-tailer. All right. Yeah, that works. I mean, it just feels kind of like 1998 to me. No, e-tailer works. I feel like the first time you use an e-tailer to buy an unlocked phone, that's like a tipping point. I remember the first time I did it. It was 2004. So was Negri even around?
Yeah, we were around, 2004. No, we started in 2006.
Okay. So actually, it might have been around then too. I don't know. It was a company called Celluloco. Have you heard of them? Oh. That's the kind of reaction I was looking for. Yeah.
And those bastards still owe me money.
Do they really? See,
yeah.
So here's the thing. I'm sure that is a massive like story. I kind of want to get a sample of that. But that was my first time ordering an unlocked device from anybody, and the reason was because like the girl at the T-Mobile store gave me their URL. And I was like, okay, I don't know anything about like this company, but okay, I'll order from them. And I ordered an unlocked Moto Crazer. And I remember doing it. I remember pulling the trigger on it, spending hundreds of dollars on this unlocked phone from some international retailer. And it was at that point that I realized that I had a problem, right? Because I didn't need it. I was just spending on a geeky thing that I wanted, and I was spending way too much on it. And then I realized that I didn't want the problem to be corrected, and so now here we are. And now
That's a good salesperson.
Yeah, well, true. He's a great salesperson. But so I just think, I mean, have you had any kind of interactions, Ryan, with anybody who's bought from your company that's like sent you, I don't know, like fan mail or like, hey, thanks, you helped me realize my dream of owning a Sidekick 3 or whatever?
I actually get a lot of email from customers, and I stay in touch with a lot of our customers. Even when I first started, a customer of mine named Gary, this guy would buy every single phone when it came out, and then 3 weeks later want to trade it in for something. And of course, I'd accommodate for it, but I keep telling him, Gary, you're wasting a lot of money. I don't care. I love this stuff,
Yes.
And that's the kind of mindset that a lot of people have. They just have to have the newest and best technology. And we kind of cater to that, and we offer the trade-in back so you can, it's not a sunk cost. So you get some of it back and you can use it on something else. But yeah, I mean, I still get emails from customers. If something's going wrong, they'll send me an email and be like, can you look into this for me? And I still will. And I still will for years to come. That's the relationship that I have with a lot of these customers. And I'm sure a lot of people know that, I take a personal side to contacting some of these customers, and a lot of people don't. And maybe that's what sets us apart too. Maybe that's a small caveat that people like about it. It's a more personable site. It's more of a boutique than a mass e-com site.
Right.
And
so you engage with people personally on Twitter too. I mean, like you're pretty active there. You're always talking, which is great.
Yeah, I like Twitter. I like talking to people, razzing people, and getting some responses. I think I got 29,000 tweets. I think yesterday or 2 days ago was my third year on Twitter.
On the Twitters.
Yep.
It's crazy because you interact with a lot of people because we're not the only press outlet that you guys have a relationship with. Obviously, I mean, like everybody. So I'll have my Twitter feed along the side, and Tony knows this because I'll be talking to, and I'm like, oh wow, Ryan's talking to Brad at Engadget or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, what are you guys talking about? It's like you're just kind of always around. You're always up there.
I like my relationships with the outlets. Engadget is a good one. Techno Buffalo is a great one. I'm great friends with John.
John's great.
It's hard to find a guy like John. Someone as honest as trustworthy, and I always go to him for advice, and he comes to me when he needs some. So it's a great relationship, and it's been formed over the years throughout reaching out and kind of saying, hey, do you guys want to do something together? And it's the same way that I met Brandon, through Pocketnow, and that's how we got this relationship going. But yeah, we have relationships with CNET, Engadget, Gizmodo.
And it's crucial too because we talk about review units on the show a lot. Tony knows this. I mean,
yeah.
How many episodes of the Weekly have we taken listener mail about questions regarding the behind the scenes operation, particularly with demo units, and sometimes you just can't get them from the OEM, and you guys always have what we need to be looking for
Early.
Yeah, like way early. So.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that we kind of set ourselves apart is we want to do that. We want to be the ones that have it first, and we obviously pay more for it, and the customer pays more for it, and they appreciate being able to get it. We had the LG Flex.
The G Flex, yeah.
2 months ago. And, we get criticized, wow, how are you charging $1,100 for this? And then we sell out, so you got people that are angry that we're charging so much. And then you got the other guys being, holy shit, it's available, so, you take one, you take another, and you kind of even them out, I guess.
And Ryan and I have talked about this in person, and I'm going to ask the same question, not because I'm dumb, but because I want the audience to know the answer. And I asked him this: how is it possible for Negri Electronics to get a specific phone or tablet before any other either carrier or competitive e-tailer? Are you working directly with the manufacturers? Because in my mind, I imagined it like this: Negri is good friends with Apple, and he's getting his phones from, I don't know, the Shenzhen factory directly, because I can't see any other way where he can get the phones and tablets earlier than anybody else. And he said no.
That is not the case. We are not buddy with any of the manufacturers. We work directly with their authorized distributors. The way we get things first is simply relationships. We have relationships with everybody in many of the different countries that sell these mobile products, and a lot of the times I'll contact someone in the city where it's released first. They'll actually go to a retail store and pick me up 3-5 units, whatever I need. So that kind of relationship we've formed over the last couple of years has made us, set us apart, so to speak, and that's why we're able to get things first. We really don't deal with the manufacturers, and I'm not sure if they like us, they don't like us. To be honest, I don't care.
That's really interesting.
We sell their product. We sell their product. They should be happy that we're doing that for them.
So there's another layer, though, of business between you and the manufacturer. There's an authorized distributor that actually sells to you, is what you're saying.
Yes,
wow.
Yes. And a lot of the times, we do that because the minimum order quantities are too large. They want us to spend $10 million a month with Samsung, and that's just not something we could do right now, and we couldn't do that before. I don't know if they'll be able to do that in the future, but that's just, it's unrealistic. And then, once you start dealing directly with the manufacturers, they put restrictions on what else you can sell. Like if we took in the Galaxy Round, they wouldn't want us to sell the LG Flex.
The G Flex, yep.
Yeah, so we avoid all that. No conflict of interest, no conflict with manufacturers. We just buy from the authorized distributors. We pay a little more, but we have relationships with these people that we're able to negotiate the prices, and maybe we're paying $5-6 more per device, and that charge is passed on to the customer, but they appreciate the fact that we're able to get them sooner.
Wow. I think that I'm still absorbing the notion of this kind of descending tree of business relationships from the manufacturer all the way down. It's just incredible. And then you have the carriers in the middle of all of it, kind of doing the subsidized thing. But I have no idea, Tony. What exactly were you trying to ask on that? Because I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Regarding what?
Regarding the relationship, like the Negri and the carrier relationship between them.
Well, I'm not sure. Not that you're mentioning it in this context. I'm not sure. No, I was you're probably referring to the fact that I was thinking that carriers are mainly selling service, but you can get the service if you, of course, preferably get the phone from them. And in the U.S., as I've learned from you guys and from my staying there, it is a big thing to buy a phone on a contract, because a subscriber, has the idea of installment payment rather than paying for the phone outright. So my question would be, aren't carriers frowning upon the fact that you are selling maybe more unlocked units that maybe they are?
I don't know if they're frowning upon it. I don't ask them. John Leisure hasn't contacted me and said, hey,
Luckily, thankfully.
I'm angry with you, but I think it's kind of opening their eyes a little bit. Like maybe they look at my site and say, how is this site doing so well selling strictly unlocked? And maybe that drove them to say, listen, maybe we should stop the subsidizing and charge full price for the phone and give them their prepaid, and let's do everything that the UK has been doing for 10 years. We're way behind, by the way, and it's the carrier's fault. The carriers are petitioning not only to not unlock your phone, but to keep you in contract. And they're, look at what they're doing now. They're offering you a non-contract phone that you actually sign a contract for because you're going to finance it. That's a contract. They're tricking people into just signing another piece of paper.
Yeah, but for that, you have to have people who are willing to be tricked into this because, and I cannot speak for the entire Europe, but in Eastern Europe where I live, prepaid is a huge thing. Out of, let's say, 10 customers who are not business consumers, I'd say 8 probably who are individuals are on prepaid. And it's completely up to me if I would like to buy a prepaid phone or a unlocked phone and take it to any carrier I wish for, because that is my choice. And I think there's really a perception difference between this part of the world and the U.S.
I agree, and I think I'm not going to point fingers, but it has to do with the education that consumers are getting. And you guys do a great job at talking about the advantages of prepaid, but I think if more of the sites kind of touched on this, and maybe they can't, maybe they have a relationship with the carriers that they don't want to mess up and start talking about prepaid and how the carriers are kind of taking them through the cleaners, but it has to do with educating the consumer. And the more you guys talk about this stuff, the more educated people are going to get. Like the fact that carriers are petitioning to disallow you to unlock your phone is actually educating consumers into knowing there's something else out there. There's an unlocked phone. You can unlock your phone. People are coming up to me saying, you can unlock a phone? Well, yeah, you've been able to do this for years. They've just been blindsiding you, just holding a blinder over your eyes saying, this is the only way to buy a phone. You pay me $199 and we'll rip you off for 2 years. I promise.
But, it's true. But I mean, like, there's also the downside of the prepaid stuff, right? Like, I was just having this conversation last night with a guy who wants to leave Verizon because he no longer agrees with Verizon's corporate efforts in a variety of different areas, okay? And he wanted to switch to T-Mobile. And the plan that he was talking about was great. It was like $30 a month for 5 gigs of data and 100 minutes and unlimited text and all this. But unfortunately, both where he lives, actually where I live and maybe where he lives, T-Mobile's coverage is very poor. So, and the throughput, it doesn't match what we're getting on other carriers, So there's that trade-off. There's the subsidized device trade-off. There's other kinds. So it's not like it's a really tough thing to pitch prepaid at someone. Like, I feel like you have to really carefully qualify who you're talking to, right? Because it's not for everyone, is my point.
Right. And Verizon is one of the ones that's kind of, they're the leader. I mean, they're obviously the best carrier in the United States. They have the best coverage. I'm not sure about their... Yeah, I'm not sure about their customer service. Their prices are higher because they can charge that much because of what they offer. Mm-hmm. So it is difficult to replace Verizon. If you're trying to replace T-Mobile or AT&T, there's several hundred MVNOs out there that are able to beat the prices, but you're not going to get the unlimited. The carriers the carriers control the MVNOs and kind of restrict what they're able to offer,
sure,
and rightfully so. They don't want to undercut themselves, but at the same time, they're excuse me. At the same time, they're trying to sell contract plans and then try to act like they're a no contract carrier, and it's just confusing for people. And I guess I wish there was a place where people could go and just read about this stuff and say, let me make my own decision. I want a phone, but I don't need it right now, so I can order online. They also offer prepaid plans. Let me bundle this together, and heck with the carriers.
Yeah, the carriers have a very large amount of control on this side. I mean, Tony, I get envious when you talk about your arrangement with Digi or whatever, where they're giving you 20,000 terabytes a week for 40 cents. But it's something that I wish that we had over here. But I think I find myself stuck in this situation where we always write these articles, and a lot of outlets write these articles where it's like, hey, this AT&T Next or T-Mobile Jump or whatever these early upgrade packages are, they're a real ripoff. You end up spending more money over time. But then I have to sit down with myself and realize that if I weren't getting a new device in my office every week, if I were just a regular person who wanted to upgrade more frequently, I don't think I would care. I don't know. I'm sure that both of you guys on the air with me right now plan your finances better than I do. So, but I would take the hit in the long term in order so that I could afford in the short term to get devices more readily. And the only reason I say that is because I think of a lot of more Americans are like me than they are careful, if that makes any sense. So I guess that your success with Negri sort of proves me wrong in a way, right? Because there are people out there who are perfectly willing to spend full price on an unlocked device, and plenty of them.
Right. There are a lot, and that number is growing, and I think it's a lot to do with them educating themselves on, look at the financing. Look at paying $500 for a phone now as opposed to $750 over the next 2 years. It's just foolish, and you don't even own your phone until the end of the second year. But carriers are a necessary evil for a lot of consumers because they like the fact that they can go in and get a phone for nothing. Well, let me touch on that first, too, because carriers offer zero down. But when you go in there, you actually pay for the tax of the phone at full retail. So you're picking up a $599 device, and if you're paying 8%, that's $60 or $50 dollars. So you actually have to pay that. And you have to pay it on the full retail, not the discounted price. So the zero down isn't zero down. And the $199 for your phone, you're actually paying $199 for the phone. You're paying tax on the full retail. So you got to add that. Anyway.
You're getting to one of my points, because here in Europe, people are usually buying phones on contracts because they want to also pay an installment for the phone, and the installment for the phone together with your monthly contract is an amount of, let's say, X euros or X dollars. But by the time you end your contract, you not only pay the full price of the phone and all of your bills, but you are way like 25 or 30% more for the phone than what you would have paid if you would have paid for the phone outright.
Absolutely.
So basically,
that's
your
the
phone
financing
is
model.
it's more expensive than what it would have been in the beginning.
Yep, it's just like financing a house. You end up paying, 3 times the price of your house because you want to finance it for 30 years. It's the American way. I mean, that's how people get into debt, and it's going to become a larger issue now. I mean, more and more people are financing smaller products, and that still hurts your credit about the same. So you're going to have all these tags on your credit, and it's going to be another credit crunch or whatever it's called. So. But let's go back to the carriers are a necessary evil for a lot of consumers because they like the plans that are offered, and it's okay for them because they can set aside X amount from their check each month that they get. And these are the consumers that have the 9-to-5 jobs, that have the salary jobs, that don't really have the additional income to kind of throw $600, $700 at a phone right away. But they have to know that they're overpaying for the product over time, but I guess it's a write-off. I mean, they don't care because it's not an expense that they have to encounter right away.
So there's one more thing. I mean, there's lots of things which we have talked about over that filet mignon, but the one thing that really stuck in my mind is if you remember, Ryan, I asked you about Negri, and at one point you told me that Negri is not selling phones and tablets. Negri is selling services or service packages, and you explained it to me, and I'm sure our audience would like to hear what you mean by that. We don't just sell the actual device. I mean, we do that, but that's not the only thing that we do. We offer a service. You want a product, and we want to get it to you. That's the service. The fact that this product is located in Hong Kong, in Germany, in Australia, we get that for you. We take care of the transit, the fulfillment, the import-export fees, and we quality check the product. And what's unique about the way we quality check is we actually open up the box, we inventory everything within the phone box, make sure it's all there. We put a quality check sticker inside the box with the name of the person that did the quality check. We reseal it up and send it to you.
We don't take the screen protector off, though, right?
No.
That's good. That's my favorite part, yeah.
And a lot of people have a problem with this, and we put it in our store policies that if you want us to keep the phone sealed or the way we get it, we can, but we can't guarantee that you'll get every single piece that's supposed to be included.
And you mentioned
a lot of the times,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No problem. I know what you're going to touch on. The fact that we've received devices sometimes from authorized
I'm not going to name
distributors.
any OEMs. Yeah, just saying that you receive devices without a full package, saying that we're either missing a charger or a USB cable, no names.
Right, or even a battery, and you know what's funny about that is, you know, when we do find this issue, we either send it back or we'll buy a battery from Samsung, who usually forgets them, and then you know
that's it for the no names part.
We'll complete the package, we'll reseal it and send it out. So when a customer gets a product and they say, "Hey, there's no USB cable here," we know that's not true. So, you know, it helps us to know, you know, exactly what we're receiving, exactly what we're shipping, and exactly what the customer is receiving.
And I know this was supposed to be my last question, but I swear this will be my last question because it just comes naturally to me after his answer, Ryan, saying that you mentioned import and export taxes. And I'm, of course, living outside of the U.S., and I have purchased phones from you personally in the past, and I hope I will in the future too. But having me buying a phone from the U.S. within the EU, I will need to pay at one point import taxes and VATs and all the other taxes which we have here in Europe. So my question to you is, having these taxes in place for non-US customers, do you see a decline in sales, or would you sell more if there wouldn't be these taxes?
We'd absolutely sell more. The fact that there are these import fees just shows the relationships between the countries. There's issues importing, let's say, into Brazil. We've imported into Brazil a few times, and they don't want our products. They don't want the trade between the U.S., so they actually assess a ridiculously high tax on them. So we no longer ship to Brazil. Germany is another place we don't ship to. You cannot import a device higher than $75 into Germany. So in order to get something to Germany, it has to be under 75, or we have to value it at 75. And in that case, if it's lost, we lose, you know, $600-700. Into the other areas, into the other countries, the fee is not as high as a lot of people anticipate it to be. And oftentimes, if you're going to buy in the UK from a competitor of ours, say Clove, oftentimes where our prices are low enough so that adding on the import tax, you'll still save a few bucks.
If there would be a agreement between the EU and the US, like they are talking now, that we should slash import-export taxes between the EU and the US, and everything would be non-taxable, how many customers are we talking about? Or maybe percentages? How much boost would that bring to you?
Well, it would help us greatly. I can't give you a percentage, but I know that we import a lot from the UK, and we do pay the taxes. It's not as high as what you would think it would be. It's maybe, you know, $3-4 per device. But if we're doing, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 device, or 4,000 devices a month, that adds up. To get rid of that, I mean, we'd obviously have the best prices in the U.S. guaranteed, and a lot of the times we'd beat all the UK companies at their prices. So it would open up doors to the UK for Negri Electronics.
I'm going to wrap this up, Michael, with the final sentence. I bought the Nokia 808 PureView, which is my dearest phone ever, from Ryan. And I think at that point it was about close to $600, which was the price on Negri's website. And by the time I got that phone in my hands, it was close to $900 with import taxes, VAT, and everything, making that one more reason for it being a collector's item, and for me not taking the crap regarding my phone.
Yeah, and you know, I just hope consumers know that, you know, we're not the ones collecting that fee. You know, that money never comes to us. That goes to your government. That goes to pay for, you know, whatever, you know, their haircuts or whatever they get for $20,000.
You know, so barbershops are special. You know, you get what you pay for.
Right, and they just you basically pay them to keep quiet is what you do.
Yeah. Well, I have a question regarding something a little bit specific on the site. You guys do sell wearables. I mean, you sell the Pebble, you sell the Galaxy Gear. The Galaxy Gear is actually in your top, 5 most searched for items right now. But there's no specific section for them, and they're not really. I don't see that they're pushed on the site. What's your opinion of that category? I mean, do you think that this is a fad on the whole, or do you think that this is something that's here to stay based on your experience with the sales of those items?
I think it's here to stay, but I think it's got a long way to go. The Pebble is doing great things. They're coming out with different types of designs and something more classy. The initial launch was just to get a feel for what people would react to. The Galaxy Gear, I believe, overall was a flop. They anticipated a lot more from this device. They did not get it. They were dropping prices instantly because they did not see the demand. And a lot of that probably had to do with the fact that it doesn't sync with the older devices, but they're coming out with that now, and maybe it'll start to sell, but it needs to be around $150. It can't be $300.
$300 for a smartwatch when you're already spending $700 for the device itself unlocked, right?
Right. Yeah. And so the fact that we don't have the categories is not because they're not popular. We're in the middle of a transition, so a lot of the things aren't complete. We're not 100% right now, and we'll definitely have a wearables category coming up, and I just hope that there's more progress made. And I think one thing that needs to happen to get more people involved in wearables is Apple needs to come out with something.
Yeah,
Apple needs to have a watch. They need to come out with a ring. They need to do something on the wearable side, because the cult that is Apple followers will absorb that and kind of create its popularity through Apple. I mean, Apple's a trendsetter. Right. Yeah. If they do something, they obviously do it right. And all these people are rushing out to get one. And I think that Apple's staying back, watching all the responses, saying, I'm glad we didn't do it first. We're going to do it the best. And that's kind of what they do.
It's a smart way to go. Yep. Why don't you tell us, we're going to wrap it up here, but I would like to very much to know what is next for you in your serial entrepreneurship.
Well, we spoke briefly about it. There's the company that I own. I co-founded with a friend of mine, Kyle Matthews. It's called Lycos. It's a developmental company. We're actually hiring designers and developers in the Tampa area. I'm actually flying out there next week. We're going to look at offices, and we're going to take off with this company. And it's not just Fuse. We're going to start to build many of Kyle and mine's ideas out, and a lot of his friends have ideas as well that we're going to kind of take in. And in the meantime, we'll be doing small projects for local businesses in the Tampa area, creating websites, creating iPhone apps, and that's just supplementary income for revenue for the company. But there's big things coming from Lycos, and as soon as we get our staff all hired, you're going to start to see some great things.
I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Keep us apprised, because this has been really great. It's been kind of a departure from our usual format, but it's been really, really nice to hear about something from the world of business. And, that venture sounds like something we'd like to know more about. So please keep us in the loop, would you?
Always.
Awesome. Well, cool. Tony, are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Brian, thank you very much for joining us. I look forward to the next time we get to speak, either virtually or in person, and good luck getting those future ventures off the ground.
I was about to say it's time for Ryan to come to Europe.
Yeah, it is.
I do have plans to travel. Europe could be in that plan in the next 2 years. I did want to interrupt you guys. Yeah. I did have a question here on Twitter from one of my longtime customers, Jeff Booth.
Oh, perfect. Yes.
He asked when I'm going to try Android for my daily driver and what phones I'm looking forward to.
What are you carrying now? Are you have an iPhone for a daily driver?
Yep.
Yeah, I've got an iPhone and a Q10. I use the Q10 for obviously longer emails.
I'm sorry. Wait, no, hold on. I have to stop. You carry a BlackBerry Q10 as one of your daily drivers?
I do, and that's probably the most used.
This is amazing to me. So I have a Q10 in my office, obviously, but every time I pick it up, I go, man, I really want to use this as one of my daily drivers. Because isn't that keyboard heaven?
It's amazing. There's nothing like it out there. Even that copy iPhone keyboard isn't even close to this.
Wow, you're the first person I've met who carries the Q10. This is awesome. Okay, cool.
I don't know if that's a compliment or.
I don't know what it is. I'm so blown away that I don't know what to say. This is great news. Okay, so you got an iPhone and a Q10, and answer the question from Mr. Booth.
Well, I don't know when I'm going to switch to Android. I want to try the HTC One, but I want the 64 gig developers version. That doesn't seem to be available. The device I'm actually looking forward to that Flex just to use it for a little bit. I don't think I'll switch to it.
It's wild.
But yeah, I guess I'm looking forward to the iPhone 6. I don't know. I'm looking to get rid of one of these devices, and I think, after selling the company, not being as busy as I was, I could maybe switch and just get to one device. But and maybe that'll be an Android. Maybe I'll just leave the iPhone at home and switch to the HTC One or S4 or something. But I don't know when I'm going to switch to Android. And I guess I'm looking forward to some bendable phones.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, answer this question.
Yeah.
You are the CEO or ex-CEO of a company who sells phones, and you have your hands on with the latest phones before everybody else. How can you stick with a phone as your daily driver for more than a week?
I mean, like, how can I stick with it? I wouldn't be able to. There'd be no way. I would raid the inventory before I left.
Dude, that's not a problem for me, because when I find something that I like and I learn it, it's frustrating to switch to something else, and I actually lose time trying to learn something else. So I think that one of my big things is being efficient, and switching devices all the time isn't efficient at all.
No, it's not.
So as soon as I got the BlackBerry, I knew that I'd make. I think I paid $900 for this BlackBerry because I had the first one.
Whoa.
So I made it back in probably a month just using BlackBerry Messenger and email in order to do some deals. But it paid for itself, and I wasn't upset about having to pay because my 9900 crashed and I needed this Q10, and
right.
So I overpaid for it. But I haven't switched in a long time. I did pick up the iPhone, and I'm still kind of getting used to the iPhone, so to speak. And it might be the daily. I don't know. But I love the BlackBerry keyboard, and I believe in BlackBerry. I believe they have a lot of patents that are valuable, and I think that they just, the fact that the old guys kind of still took over there is one of the reasons they didn't adapt quick enough. And all these guys are counting their money now and saying, we did great at what we did, and they absolutely did not. They didn't. They were so stubborn, and they didn't want to change.
Fingers crossed for the dinosaurs.
Yeah, let me say to you, Ryan, if you get bored one weekend and it's rainy and you can't play golf and you want to do some very light hackery, load some Android apps onto your Q10. Load like the new Jelly Bean builds. It is fun, and you may be able to leave your iPhone at home. For
a second, I thought that you were proposing, Ryan, that you would send him an Android device.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I can. I don't think I have as many as Ryan, has available to him. But, no,
I don't have access to these anymore. I got to pay full price for all this stuff.
Well, I'm about to get a new Moto X, so if you want my blue and white one, you just let me know.
Just don't forget about the middleman here.
I know. Yep. Yeah, Tony, you're going to have to take some off the top.
Cool.
All right. Well, that's an awesome. Thank you for remembering that Twitter question. I'm sorry that I didn't get to it, but thank you. That's from Mr. Booth, correct?
Yep, a longtime customer of mine. I think back in 2008, he's been a customer since then. And
a longtime Twitter follower of mine as well, probably through you. So that's wonderful. A virtual wave to him. And that was a great question to close out the show with. So, Ryan, let me thank you again for sticking with us and for gracing the weekly with your presence. We really appreciate it, and let's do it again sometime.
No problem at all. Thanks for inviting me.
All right, folks, that is going to do it for this episode of the Pocketnow Weekly. Tony, thank you also. And thank you all for joining us, folks. And again, for all your listener mail every week, thank you very much. We love it. And even if it doesn't make it to the airwaves, we do read every piece sent to us at podcast@pocketnow.com. Also, be sure to find us on Twitter. Our special guest is at Ryan Negri, RyanNegri. Anton is at Anton Dinoj, ANTONDNAGY. Taylor is at CasperTech, CSPRTEK. And I am at Captain Two Phones. You can also follow Pocketnow officially at Pocketnow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Google+. And you can share opinions with other listeners online at forums.pocketnow.com. Finally, if you enjoy the podcast, and we hope you do, please leave us a review on iTunes, Xbox Music, Stitcher, wherever else podcast reviews are accepted. Thanks as always for listening, everyone, and we'll be in your ears again next week.
Take care.